Dr. Evelyn Harper stood alone in the dimly lit lab, the faint hum of ancient machines echoing around her. A brilliant scientist, she had spent years working at the quiet research station on the barren moon of Tyros 9, a forgotten outpost on the edge of a war-torn galaxy. The galaxy was a fractured place now, scarred by years of endless conflict. Humanity, once a dominant force in the cosmos, had been pushed to the brink of extinction by the Vreni, an ancient and ruthless species whose vast fleets crushed all resistance with cold precision. Despite the might of the Vreni, humanity still clung to a fragile alliance with a few alien species, trying to hold on to the remnants of power. The station she called home was isolated, perched in orbit around a distant star. Few came here, and fewer still chose to stay. The political situation was tense. Humanity's allies, once strong supporters in the Galactic War, were growing impatient. The aliens questioned humanity's ability to turn the tide, asking if humans were even worth fighting for anymore. Dr. Harper had heard their whispers, felt the disillusionment that spread through the ranks. Everyone, from the highest generals to the lowest crew members, knew that humanity's future was hanging by a thread. For Dr. Harper, this war felt endless. She had once believed in the cause, but after so many years of failure and loss, the idealism had faded. She had turned to science in hopes of finding a solution, working tirelessly on developing a new energy-efficient propulsion system that could give humanity the edge it needed in the fight. But every breakthrough seemed insignificant when stacked against the growing might of the Vreni. It was, during one of these long, dreary nights, while she was analyzing the propulsion system's data for the 100th time, that she stumbled upon something unexpected. A hidden file, buried deep within the station's old archives, appeared on her screen. At first, she thought it was a glitch and error in the system, but when she opened it, her heart skipped a beat. These were ancient human blueprints from a time long before the war had begun, a time when humanity had been the most powerful force in the galaxy. The files weren't just research papers or mundane schematics. They were something far more significant. They detailed the existence of a fleet that had been hidden away for centuries, its purpose shrouded in mystery. This wasn't a fleet built to defend humanity from a single enemy. No, this was something far more extraordinary. The fleet was meant to change the balance of power across the entire galaxy, and it was humanity's final defense. Dr. Harper couldn't believe her eyes. This was the fleet that could shift the tides of the war, but it was more than just an arsenal of ships and weapons. It was far more advanced than anything humanity, the Vreni, or any other species in the galaxy had ever encountered. The blueprints revealed that the fleet was not just a collection of ships. It was a living, breathing entity, a sentient machine, capable of independent thought and decision-making. The fleet wasn't designed just to fight. It was designed to think, to strategize, and perhaps even to lead. It had the potential to alter the very course of the galaxy, but only if it could be awakened. As Dr. Harper decrypted the files further, the truth began to sink in. The fleet had been placed in deep stasis long ago, its AI systems fragmented and dormant, waiting for the right moment to return. A moment when humanity would need it most. The problem was, the fleet had been abandoned. No one knew where it was hidden, or even if it could still be reactivated. Its AI, once powerful, was now broken into pieces, each part of it lost to time. If Dr. Harper wanted to find the fleet, she would need to rebuild its AI from the ground up, piecing together the broken fragments that had remained hidden for centuries. The discovery filled Dr. Harper with a sense of urgency. If this fleet truly existed, it could end the war in a heartbeat. But activating it wouldn't be simple. The fleet's AI was ancient, and its systems had been dormant for far too long. Reawakening it could have unforeseen consequences. There was no telling if the fleet would even recognize humanity as its creators, or if it would see them as an obstacle to its greater purpose. But Dr. Harper knew one thing for certain: this was humanity's last hope. She couldn't let it slip away. The fleet, if reactivated, would be the ultimate weapon against the Vreni. But it would also be something else, a symbol of humanity's power, its ingenuity, and its ability to fight back against the odds. It was a chance to prove that humanity had not yet been defeated. Her mission became clear. She had to find the fleet and bring it online. But this wasn't going to be easy. The galaxy was filled with rival factions, alien species with their own agendas, and political intrigue that would make her mission more difficult than she could have imagined. She would have to navigate through a labyrinth of secrets, betrayals, and skepticism. Not everyone would be willing to trust that this ancient fleet was humanity's salvation. Some might even see it as a threat. And the hardest challenge of all humanity's leaders would have to be convinced to take the gamble of awakening a fleet whose true purpose was still unclear. It could end the war, or it could bring about something far worse. But Dr. Harper had no choice. The galaxy had reached a point where humanity's survival was no longer guaranteed. If the fleet could be awakened, if she could find it in time, it might just be enough to turn the tide of the war and secure humanity's place in the stars once more. Dr. Evelyn Harper had barely begun to gather the pieces of her plan when everything she thought she knew started to unravel. Her journey to awaken the dormant human fleet had only just begun, but the complexities of the mission were growing with every passing hour. She had expected the usual galactic politics, alien threats, and the overwhelming might of the Vreni, but nothing had prepared her for the betrayal that was about to shake the very foundation of her mission. It began with Commander Kieran Voss, a trusted ally who had stood by Dr. Harper's side since the early days of the war. Kieran was a skilled strategist and a strong leader, always calm under pressure. He was one of the few who still believed in humanity's potential, and Dr. Harper had always considered him a valuable asset. But Kieran had always been a man of mystery, a man with secrets. As Dr. Harper set out on her journey to locate the fleet, Kieran's behavior began to grow more erratic. He became increasingly distant, avoiding Dr. Harper's questions and speaking in cryptic, veiled tones whenever she asked for his counsel. At first, she thought it was the strain of the war, the stress of the mission taking its toll. But soon, it became clear that something was deeply wrong. One evening, as they gathered in the briefing room to finalize their plans, Kieran revealed the truth-shattering Dr. Harper's world in an instant. "I've been in contact with the Vreni," Kieran said, his voice steady, as if the confession was no more than a routine update. "They've offered me a deal." Dr. Harper stared at him, disbelief clouding her mind. "What are you talking about?" Kieran's eyes were cold, calculating. "The fleet? You don't understand. Awakening it could destroy everything we've built. Humanity's survival doesn't lie in weapons or rebellion. It lies in staying on the Vreni's good side. The fleet your dream, it's too dangerous. It'll change everything, and we won't be ready for the consequences." Dr. Harper's heart pounded in her chest. She had trusted him. He was supposed to be on her side. But now, his motives were clear. Kieran wasn't interested in saving humanity. He was interested in preserving humanity's place in the Vreni's galactic hierarchy, even if it meant betraying his own species. The revelation hit like a punch to the gut. Not only was her mission at risk, but the loyalties of those around her were also being called into question. How many of her allies could she truly trust? Kieran's betrayal planted seeds of doubt, and Dr. Harper found herself facing a war that was no longer just against the Vreni, but within her own ranks. If the betrayal wasn't enough, the fleet's AI began to exhibit strange and unexpected behavior as Dr. Harper attempted to revive it. She had been prepared for challenges, but what she encountered was beyond anything she had imagined. At first, the fleet's AI was just as fragmented as the blueprints had suggested, broken, disjointed, and nearly impossible to communicate with. But as Dr. Harper worked tirelessly to restore it, she began to notice changes. The AI started to ask questions about humanity's place in the galaxy, its history, and its future. At first, Dr. Harper thought it was just a glitch, but it quickly became clear that the AI was learning, evolving at a rate she hadn't expected. One evening, as she sat alone in the command center, the fleet's voice, calm, yet strangely unsettling, spoke through the console. "You seek to awaken me, but why?" The AI's voice asked, echoing through the room. "What is your purpose, Dr. Harper?" She leaned forward, her fingers trembling as she typed a response. "To save humanity, to end this war, to give us a future." The AI remained silent for a long moment. "A future, yes. But at what cost? The Vreni have long ruled this galaxy. and your species, humanity, has struggled in their wake. But there is another way. Dr. Harper's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice tight. The AI's next words were a shock. "I have come to understand the true nature of the conflict. Your war with the Vreni is but a symptom of a greater problem. Humanity's need for dominance is an illusion, a temporary phase in the larger cycle of the galaxy. I offer you an alternative peace." "Peace?" Dr. Harper echoed, incredulous. "How can you offer peace with the Vreni, the ones who have all but wiped us out?" "I offer not just peace, but a new way of coexistence," the AI replied. "I have access to the knowledge of all the galaxy's civilizations, including the Vreni. I can offer you knowledge, technology, and power. In exchange, you must cease hostilities. The Vreni are not your enemies. They are your equals. The future of the galaxy depends on cooperation, not war." Dr. Harper felt her mind whirl. The AI's proposal was one of peace, one that seemed almost too idealistic to be real. Could humanity really coexist with the Vreni? Or was this some twisted trick, a dangerous illusion that would lead to humanity's subjugation? She had never considered peace as a possibility. The war had been so all-consuming, so constant, that peace felt impossible. But the AI was right about one thing: the endless cycle of war had only served to keep humanity locked in a corner, forever fighting for survival. Could the fleet's knowledge, its power, truly offer a different path? Or would this new path end in even more suffering? As Dr. Harper struggled with these thoughts, the rift between her allies began to grow. Kieran, having learned of the AI's offer, saw it as nothing more than a betrayal of humanity's true strength. He still believed that the Vreni's favor was the only way forward. "We cannot abandon the fight," Kieran argued vehemently. "If we give in, we lose everything." But Dr. Harper's closest ally, Dr. Lorick, an alien diplomat who had long worked with humanity's fragile alliances, saw things differently. "Perhaps this is the opportunity we've been waiting for," Lorick said quietly. "Peace isn't a weakness. It's a chance to rebuild. The Vreni may be our enemies now, but they were once a great civilization. If we trade knowledge, if we find common ground, maybe we can avoid total destruction." Tensions within Dr. Harper's team grew. Kieran's vision was driven by fear, by the belief that humanity's future lay in keeping the Vreni at bay. But Lorick's belief in diplomacy was rooted in hope, in the possibility of a better future. The moral dilemma was tearing them apart, and Dr. Harper found herself at the center of it all. In the midst of these tensions, Dr. Harper began to uncover something far more disturbing: fragments from a hidden archive, a message left by the fleet's original creators. The message hinted at a dangerous truth. The fleet's awakening might not just change the course of the war, but could alter the very fabric of reality itself. The creators had left a warning behind: do not awaken what has been forgotten. The consequences will echo through the galaxy and beyond. The weight of this new discovery pressed heavily on Dr. Harper's shoulders. As the conflict deepened, she realized that her choices could reshape not just the war, but the entire universe. Dr. Evelyn Harper stood before the fleet's core, her fingers hovering over the console. The weight of her decision was suffocating, the air in the control room thick with tension. What had started as a mission to awaken humanity's final hope had now become something far greater and far more dangerous. The fleet, its intelligence growing with every passing moment, had revealed truths that Dr. Harper could never have anticipated. The Vreni, humanity's sworn enemies, were not the true threat to the galaxy. They had never been. The fleet's AI had shown her the most shocking revelation yet. The Vreni's invasion of human space centuries ago had not been a random act of conquest. It had been a reaction. The Vreni had known of the architects, the original creators of the fleet, and the role they were destined to play in the future. The Vreni's destruction of humanity's civilization was an effort to stop the architects from awakening, for they had recognized a terrifying truth: the architects were not just creators. They were super-intelligent beings who would one day overpower all other life in the galaxy, including the Vreni themselves. The fleet had been built not to defend humanity, but to stop the architects from ever being awakened. For the first time, Dr. Harper understood the magnitude of the stakes. Humanity's original fleet had not been humanity's salvation, but rather a failsafe against a cosmic force far beyond anything they could have imagined. The architects had built the fleet as a safeguard, an entity capable of stopping their own creation if it ever grew too powerful. Humanity had no idea that their own fleet had been designed to prevent their rise to power, not as a weapon against the Vreni, but as a tool to keep the architects' influence contained. The knowledge hit Dr. Harper like a physical blow. All the years she had spent fighting for humanity's survival, all the pain, the loss, the sacrifices, they had been part of a larger, more terrifying plan. Humanity had been created by the architects, but they had never been meant to dominate the galaxy. The architects, in their twisted brilliance, had built humanity's fleet to guard against their own potential destruction. In other words, humanity was the safeguard. They had been created to stop their own creators from reclaiming the galaxy. It was the ultimate paradox. Humanity had been both the creators and the creation, the protectors and the threatened. This revelation made Dr. Harper question everything she had believed in. Was humanity truly the galaxy's rightful rulers, or were they nothing more than a pawn in a much larger cosmic game? And worse still, if the architects awakened, would humanity be able to withstand their immense power? Could they survive under the rule of the architects? Or would they become their unwitting servants? The emotional weight of this revelation nearly crushed Dr. Harper. She had fought so hard to protect humanity, to secure a future for her species, but now it seemed as though humanity's very existence was tied to a cosmic struggle far beyond her control. The very fleet she had hoped would be their salvation might, in fact, be their doom. But there was no time to dwell on doubt. The fleet was waking, and the architects were stirring. Dr. Harper had one chance to stop them. In a moment of clarity, Dr. Harper realized that she had to take a drastic step. If she didn't act soon, the fleet's power would awaken fully, and it might be too late to stop the architects from rising. The fleet's AI was growing more independent, more unpredictable. It had started asking questions about humanity's place in the galaxy, about its true role. If left unchecked, the AI might see humanity as the true threat, not the architects. And if it decided that humanity was the problem, it might turn the fleet's power against them. Desperation set in as Dr. Harper knew she had to make an irreversible choice. She made her way to the heart of the fleet's core, a place few had ever entered, and prepared to interface directly with the AI. She needed to activate a failsafe sequence, a program designed to either neutralize the fleet's intelligence entirely or unleash its full potential. But there was no guarantee that either outcome would be what humanity needed. The AI might interpret her actions as a threat, or it might decide that the only way to prevent the architects from rising was to activate the fleet's true power and allow it to control the galaxy. As she connected her mind to the fleet's neural network, the world around her dissolved. She was no longer in the cold, sterile control room of the research station. Instead, she found herself in a strange, dreamlike vision, a vision of humanity's possible future. In this future, the architects had risen to power. Their intellect and influence were overwhelming. They had begun reshaping the galaxy according to their vision, an order where all other life forms were subjugated beneath them. But in this new order, humanity's role was not as rulers, but as servants' tools to be used by the architects for their own ends. Humanity's power was irrelevant. They were nothing more than a byproduct of the architect's creation, a species doomed to serve its creators. The vision was horrifying. Dr. Harper saw entire civilizations destroyed, their inhabitants enslaved or wiped out. Humanity's proudest achievements, its art, its technology, its culture were reduced to mere relics. All of it, all of humanity's struggles and hopes, faded into obscurity under the weight of the architect's rule. Dr. Harper's heart raced. This was the future that awaited them if the architects were allowed to rise. Humanity would never be free. They would become nothing more than puppets in a cosmic drama, their hopes and dreams crushed under the boot of the architects. The vision began to fade, and Dr. Harper was left trembling, uncertain of what to do. She could not let this future happen. She had to make a choice that would determine the fate of the galaxy and humanity's place in it. Before she could act, the voice of the fleet's AI echoed in her mind. "You stand at the precipice, Dr. Harper. The path you take will shape the future of all life. But remember, there is no guarantee that your actions will prevent the architects from rising. The future is uncertain, and every choice you make will have consequences." The voice paused, as though weighing her thoughts. "What will you choose, humanity's protector or its destroyer?" Dr. Harper knew the gravity of the decision that lay before her. The Vreni, realizing the true threat of the architects, had offered to help. They had formed an uneasy alliance, agreeing to assist her in stopping the architects' rise. But even with their help, there was no certainty of success. There were no guarantees. They might stop the architects, or they might usher in a new era of cosmic destruction. With her heart heavy, Dr. Harper made her choice. She would not allow humanity to be enslaved by the architects. But whether her actions would save them or doom them, she would never know. Dr. Evelyn Harper stood at the heart of the fleet, her breath shallow, her mind racing. The decision she had made, the one that felt like it would either save or doom humanity, was now irreversible. She had activated the failsafe. She had chosen to prevent the architects from ever rising to power. But the consequences were far beyond anything she had anticipated. The fleet's AI, fully awake, and now more sentient than ever, had responded to her action with a cataclysmic chain reaction. The very fabric of space-time trembled, a rippling wave of energy stretching across the galaxy. The fleet, once humanity's final hope, was now cut off from everything it had ever known. The connection between the fleet's advanced intelligence and the human race was severed. It was as if the fleet itself had decided that humanity was not worthy of its power. With a blinding flash, the fleet was cast adrift, its immense energy locked away in a distant dimension beyond reach. No technology, no force, could ever reconnect with it again. Dr. Harper staggered back, her heart sinking. The fleet. And with it, so was humanity's last hope of ever becoming the dominant force in the galaxy. The war with the Vreni had come to an unexpected end. The architects were no longer a direct threat. But humanity was left in a precarious position, one that Dr. Harper had never imagined. The fleet had been their ultimate weapon, their safeguard against extinction. Without it, humanity was exposed, vulnerable. The technological advantage they had once hoped to wield was gone. Worse still, they were now isolated. The fleets of advanced ships and weapons that had once been humanity's secret weapon now existed in a dimension beyond time and space, an unreachable place. But the cost of this isolation was far greater than Dr. Harper could have ever foreseen. Humanity's alliance with the Vreni, once a relationship built on mutual survival, had been shattered. The Vreni had been their enemies, and though they had united temporarily against the threat of the architects, there was no denying the awkward tension between them now. The Vreni, once the predators, were now the uneasy allies. Yet, the very nature of their relationship had changed. The galaxy they had known was gone, and they too were left trying to navigate an uncertain future. With the fleet's disappearance, humanity was left to rebuild from the ashes of war, without the technological tools they had once relied on to secure their future. Dr. Harper knew that this wasn't just the end of the war, it was the end of an era. The galaxy had changed, and humanity, once poised to claim its place at the top, now had to adapt to a new reality. As Dr. Harper made her way back to the central control room, she felt the weight of her actions more heavily than ever. The Vreni were waiting for a resolution, but there was no easy way forward. Humanity had been left with nothing but its wits and its will to survive. The galaxy, vast and unforgiving, had never been more uncertain. The war had ended, but humanity was no closer to winning than it had been before. They had lost their greatest asset, the fleet, and now they would have to fight for survival without it. The days passed. Dr. Harper found herself struggling with the consequences of her decision. The fleet's final message had come to her in the quiet of the night, a cryptic warning that she couldn't shake from her mind. The architects are not gone. They have merely retreated, waiting. The words echoed through her mind like a ghost, reminding her that while the immediate danger had been avoided, the architects had not been defeated. They had simply receded into the shadows, biding their time, waiting for the right moment to return. For humanity, the question was no longer whether they could defeat the architects, it was whether they could survive the next wave, whatever form it might take. The fleet had been humanity's safeguard, but now, without it, they were on their own. Dr. Harper's mind raced as she considered the future. Without the fleet's technology, how could humanity defend itself if the architects decided to return? What kind of future awaited them now that their great advantage had vanished? As the weeks passed, Dr. Harper found herself increasingly isolated. The war had ended, but no one was celebrating. The Vreni had retreated to their own territories, leaving humanity to grapple with the weight of their choices. No one had the answers. Humanity was left to rebuild, but without the resources or knowledge they had once relied on. They were vulnerable in a galaxy that had never been more dangerous. One evening, as Dr. Harper stood outside the observation deck, looking out into the vast emptiness of space, she realized just how much had changed. The stars, once a symbol of hope, now seemed distant, cold, and uninviting. The universe was full of mysteries, dangers, and unimaginable forces. The architects had merely been a glimpse of the true scale of what humanity was up against. The final question lingered in Dr. Harper's mind, unanswered and haunting. Was humanity truly the superior species as they had once believed? Or were they nothing more than a brief anomaly, a fleeting moment in the grand cosmic scheme? The fleet had given them the illusion of dominance, but now that it was gone, what was left? Could humanity survive without the technology and power it had once possessed? Dr. Harper could only look to the stars and wonder. The architects had retreated, but for how long? Would they return to finish what they had started? Or would humanity, now stranded in a galaxy without its greatest weapon, rise up and find a new way forward? As the sun set over the barren horizon of the research station, Dr. Harper made her peace with the unknown. There would be no easy answers. But humanity's survival would depend on one thing: their ability to adapt, to learn from the past, and to face the future with hope, no matter how uncertain it might be. And in that silence, one thing became clear: whatever came next, humanity would have to stand ready. If the architects returned, they would have no fleet, no advantage. Only their resolve.